Everyone, and welcome back to Dallas Cowboys coverage. It's been a while. It's been a pretty crazy last couple of weeks. Haven't been feeling too well, and then on top of the finals, it's been crazy. But I'm just happy to be back, um, and get going again. It's been crazy for me, but it's been crazy for the Cowboys as well. So I'm just gonna sort of break down everything that's gone on over these last few weeks, along with the Texans game, and so this might be a bit of a longer one, so let's get right into it. So the Cowboys Texans, that's about it, the ugliest win I've ever seen, and that's the most upset I've ever seen the Cowboys fans after a win. And you can't blame them, but it was an insane game. It was an ugly game, but no matter how bad it was, a win is still a win. The Cowboys improved to 10-3 on the season, and that's awesome. If you had told me we'd be 10-3 at this point in the year, sign me up. It's been a good year, and it's the first time the Cowboys have had back-to-back 10-win seasons since the 1995-96 season. So that says something. And the Cowboys it's been they've exceeded expectations all year. But obviously, what matters is the playoffs, and the Cowboys, it's going to be interesting if they can step up, if they can improve in the playoffs, because, now's the time to get these bad games, these errors and mistakes out of the way, and, I just hope that they can do that and be geared up full force for the playoffs, because we've seen it happen. We've seen this Cowboys team assert their dominance in the Vikings game, in the Colts game, and we got to see that same team game in and game out, or else, you never know. You never know what team's going to show up, and it's just the consistency aspect of it that's really got to improve for this team to, really definitely be a legitimate contender come playoff time. So for me, that starts with Dak Prescott. It's been a sort of weird year for him. Obviously, the injury at first, missing that time, but he's just been uncharacteristic in his interceptions thrown this year. It's been frustrating. It's been surprising. 9 interceptions in I think only 8 games. It's just not like him. And for him, it's really been a tale of two halves is interesting too. He just sort of gets all his errors out of the way in the first half, and then in the second half, he looks great. It's weird. It's been a weird season for him. And, the Texans game was a prime example of it. This time it stretched all the way. The hair stretched all the way to the third quarter, too, though. And it was rough, just the interception at first. And I want to talk real quick. I didn't get to do a video about the Giants game. That game, to me, was just like the Packers game. Just you struggle in the first half, and then the second half, it turns it on, and then you're up 28-14, just like the Packers, except you didn't choke. You stay together and you win that game. The Colts game, same situation, all the way up to the fourth quarter. The beginning of the fourth quarter, you're winning 21-19. Dak again, 2 first half interceptions, both of those games, I believe, and that puts you behind. You're sort of just sticking with a bad team. In both of those games, you're 21-19. Not both games, but you know what I mean. You're right there. And then, in the Colts game, you just take over in the fourth quarter. You end up winning 56-19, 54-19, something like that. And it's crazy how the team is able to turn it on in the fourth quarter, which has been a good thing. In past years, it's been the complete opposite. You have a good first half and then struggle in the second half. It's weird. It's been an interesting season. And in, just the last 3 games, it's been the same thing. Just a slow start. Really an ugly first half, obviously in the Texans game, but just slow start, and then just the team just sort of builds it up in the second half, and you win. It's weird. It's been interesting, but to me, the most important part is that last part. It's a win. In previous seasons, previous Cowboys teams, this Texans game would have been a loss. I want to make that very clear. Previous teams would not have won this game. And, that's what matters. This team, gets it done in clutch time. It gets it done when it counts, and there's nothing more important than that. And they were able to do that. So, as ugly as it was, they put it together, and that last drive was nothing short of amazing. A 98-yard touchdown drive, and let me not, forget the defensive stop before that, because Dak Prescott throws an interception inside the 5. Not his fault that time. His arm was hit, but I thought the game was over. Texans score a touchdown, and it is over. 3 minutes, get down by 2 scores, unless you pull a Bucks or I almost said Browns, Rams with Baker Mayfield. It's over, and the defense stepped up. 5-yard line, 4 tries at the end zone. They made the stop each time. Didn't allow a single point, and you set up your offense. You gave them a chance to win the game, and they did. So, got to give the defense a lot of credit in a game that was not their best. It wasn't bad, but just a little iffy. But they got it done also when it mattered, and you just got to give them a lot of credit for that. So, a wild game. My player of the game is Leighton Vander. I thought he was just all over the field. I think he had 14 tackles. He just really has had a great reemergence season. He's been, I think, one of the most under-the-radar type of players in the entire league this year. He's obviously sort of been defined by his incredible rookie year, and then just sort of meh since, not just regressing, I guess, since his rookie year. But he's really had a great reemergence this season. We saw it last year, but this year he's really looked good. And I think, has really played his way into a, not a massive contract, but a decent contract to, really earn his stay on this team, I think. He's really done a good job solidifying that linebacker, true middle linebacker position. Obviously, given Micah Parsons a chance to do more in the pass rush. And I just, want to give him a lot of credit. And just overall, it wasn't like a bad game. Noah Brown played well. Dalton Schultz played well on that last drive. Had some crucial drops, though. Obviously, Dak Prescott rough until the last drive. The offensive line was iffy, especially after losing Terence Steele. Man, that one hurts. Jason Peters, though, comes in, does incredible. Josh Ball, man, he was bad. It was rough there. And then Zeke and Tony Pollard, like they have been for the last couple months, great games by both of them. It's great to see what the backfield's done as a unit. They've really, really been awesome. So, just a weird game, a tough game. Not the best by any means, but you got the win, and that's what matters. So, don't know exactly how much credit I want to give them. I don't know exactly how proud I should be, but you got the win, so that's what matters. So I just want to talk about now just everything that's been going on. I've sort of missed a lot, in terms of Odell Beckham Jr. and everything that's been going on. So I'm going to talk about this week's signings, all the roster moves, but first I just want to go over Odell Beckham Jr. I'm not going to spend too much time because honestly, I'm sort of sick of the whole thing. In my last video I was saying, please sign Odell Beckham Jr. But it's really taken an interesting turn. He visits the Bills, the Giants, and finally the Cowboys. But I'm really upset with him of just how misleading he was in this whole thing. He comes in all on his high horse, like sort of arrogant to me. Just like, who's going to be the one to sign me? Who's the highest bidder? Going on this free agency tour like he's some sort of college recruit. And then he comes in here, doesn't even work out, and heads to a Mavericks game with Parsons and Diggs, but he just has shown no indication and no even desire to play football. He comes in parading himself all over Dallas, has Mavs fans chanting OBJ, and we're all excited, saying, there's a good possibility he's going to sign. And then all of a sudden, his medicals aren't right, and maybe he can play in 5 weeks during the playoffs. It's like, what? It was surprising to me. He's been waiting this whole time, not with the team, and then all of a sudden he comes acting like he's going to play, and then now he's still 5 weeks out. And then he goes on the Amazon Prime Video saying that he would prefer to just play in the playoffs. To me, this sounds like someone who is ring chasing, who just wants to get on a good team for a playoff run and get another Super Bowl, much like he did last year. But to me, there's the fact that he doesn't even want to play in the regular season. I'm not sure if he has the ability to or not. He was cleared, for contact, but is he in football shape? Apparently not, doesn't even work out. But to me, this was just very misleading on his part and on the part of his camp, his agents and all that. Acting like he's going to come in for a late season playoff push and, just getting acclimated with the team. But now he's not going to play, and it's just been wild. To me, he was just very misleading and arrogant, simply acting like he's some superstar, which, I mean, obviously he is, but he's not the player he used to be. He's coming off 2 torn ACLs in the last 2-3 years. We don't know what kind of shape he's in, and now all of a sudden he can't even play till the playoffs. It just really sort of left a bad taste in my mouth. So, Jerry says he's not out on him completely, but I don't think it's happening anymore. Maybe it'll be revisited in the offseason. But at this point, I don't want him. I wanted him for a late season push and for the playoffs. I wanted him to get going, get acclimated these 4 weeks, get with the team and get chemistry with Dak Prescott. And now it just feels like all he cares about is the playoffs. And, he's saying, I just want to be here when the moment's the biggest. That's not what we need. That's not what any team needs. We need a player that's going to be here game in and game out for this team. And it was frustrating to me. And I think a lot of players also felt the same thing. Ezekiel Elliott got sort of annoyed by all the questions. Same thing with DeMarcus Lawrence. He's saying, and everyone, everyone was pushing for this. I was pushing for this on my own social medias, recruiting and, the players shouting him out. But I think after the visit, it left a sour taste in everyone's mouth. DeMarcus Lawrence, I really liked his quote specifically. He talked about, if he can come in and help us win a Super Bowl, that's what I care about. I care about winning a Super Bowl. And if he can come in and help us, bring it on. But if it's just going to be the circus, we don't need that. We don't want that. And I agree completely because that's what it was. It was a circus. It was him dancing around Dallas, making, he loves the spotlight. And, I don't mind that. But if you're just going to mislead everyone and now you're not even going to play, and now there's recent reports that he might not play at all this season, it was just a weird situation. Just felt like a media press hype all for nothing. And it's just left a sour taste in my mouth. And it's just kind of like, come on, man. It's just a weird situation. So I'm out on OBJ. Let me know in the comments how you feel. Do you still want Odell Beckham Jr.? Type in yes or no. And, but as of now, I don't see it happening. So recently, the Cowboys, pushing that aside, signed T.Y. Hilton, a different 13, different veteran wide receiver. And, I like this a lot. I don't know. I just kind of have a good feeling about it. Obviously, he's not the player he used to be. He's not the NFL leading receiver he once was, but he's a good veteran presence and sort of the exact opposite of Odell Beckham Jr. personality-wise. He talked about how much he was excited just to be ready to work. And he's the time he's put in at the start, he talked about how he was there 10 hours a day, getting with the team, getting with the playbook, and it sounds like he'll play and have a serious role in this Jaguars game just this week. So just a true professional, and I think that's what this Cowboys team needs, just sort of a mentor and someone who can still make plays, sort of a more speed slot guy. He can line up on the outside too, and I'm not sure exactly, where he's at this point of his career, but based on his work ethic, his will to be here, just simply really made me feel good about him, and I'm excited to see what he can bring to the table for sure. A 1-year, very minimum contract, but just it adds another weapon to this Cowboys receiving corps, something they were looking for, especially with James Washington sort of iffy. Not sure exactly how much of an impact he's going to make. So just really excited to see T.Y. Hilton come aboard. So other than that, there were a few more moves. Malik Jefferson, the linebacker, has been on the practice squad all year. He was released in favor of Anthony Rush, defensive tackle. Look for him to possibly be a game day elevation. We'll see. He's mostly for depth after the Johnathan Hankins injury. So we'll see what ends up happening there. So I think, mostly just a depth option, but we'll see. He might get elevated to the game day team. And then the other pretty big move, Trayvon Mullen Jr. was claimed off waivers from the Cardinals, former second round pick, top 50 pick by the Raiders and their weird picks. But just he has potential, the former Clemson product, a top cornerback in his draft just back in 2019, I believe. It's only been a few years for him, so very young, only 25 years old. So I really like this signing. He hasn't had a good year this season. I will say that he's sort of regressed since his rookie years, which is, not exactly what you want to see, but I don't know. I don't know what it is. I like this signing. I have a good feeling about it. I just think that this is exactly the type of move you need to make, especially with your quarterback room incredibly thin. Just bringing in a young guy, someone that Dan Quinn and Joe Witt can kind of mold to their liking. We've seen the success they've had, and now they bring in a young, talented guy, has the traits, just hasn't quite lived up to his potential. If anyone can bring it out of him, it's them. It's Dan Quinn and it's Joe Witt. So I give them a lot of credit for what they've done with this defense. And just here's a guy that just needs some coaching, needs some guidance. And I think this is exactly the situation he needs. And if he can step up and be possibly another cornerback option on this team, I think that's pretty big. So, off waivers, minimum salary again, just, low risk, high reward for me. And I like the signing a lot. So it's a great one for me. And I'm happy about that. So now what I'm not happy about is injury updates. Anthony Brown, obviously that was a few weeks ago now, tears his Achilles. He's gone for the year, and that's on top of Jordan Lewis, obviously, already out for the year. That's just, it's tough. It left a hole in that cornerback's room, and I'm concerned because outside of Trayvon Diggs, it's rough. Kelvin Joseph has not been great. You added Trayvon Mullen. It's Trayvon Mullen. I don't know. Is it Trayvon or Trayvon? I'll have to check on that one. But it's just, you're thin. Nashawn Wright. Deron Bland's done a great job in the slot. Got to give him credit. He had an incredible game. He was my player of the game a couple weeks ago. I didn't get to do that video was that the Colts game? But he was just incredible, man. 2 interceptions. They found a gem, another late round gem. He was a 5th round pick. And he's been inconsistent. I'm not going to say he's been perfect all year, but he's really coming into his own. So got to give Deron Bland a lot of credit there. So continuing, though, with the injuries, Johnathan Hankins, was it a shoulder injury? I'm not quite sure on that one. I believe it was a shoulder injury. He's going to miss a few weeks. He was placed on injured reserve, so he'll be out for the rest of the regular season. He is expected to return for the playoffs, so he's really done a good job at that nose tackle position. It was an under-the-radar type of trade, but he's really made an impact, and it's going to be tough losing him. Luckily, Quinton Bohanna, he'll be your replacement, but it'll be, a tough loss there, but luckily he should be able to return for the playoffs. Someone, unfortunately, though, who will not be back is Terence Steele. Tears his ACL and MCL, got tied up, someone fell on his knee. It was just an ugly injury and just disappointing for him. Someone who's came in as an undrafted free agent and looked terrible to start his career. I mean, we were pushing to get him thrown off the team. He looked bad. But he is just came in, has a work ethic like none other. Dak Prescott, teammates have alluded to it. Coaches have praised him so much. And I praise him so much because he has turned himself into one of the best right tackles in the league. He's been so good, especially in run blocking along with Zack Martin. And just the best year of his career so far. I mean, almost a Pro Bowl type of season. And just, it's tough and it's sad to see him get hurt. He's expected to be back next year in time for training camp. We'll see about that. But I think he, luckily should, hopefully, if the recovery goes well, be able to be back at least for the start of the regular season. So, but that's just a brutal blow, going into the playoffs. I've really just so much liked what Terence Steele has done, his improvement throughout his career, and he's just someone that I got to give a lot of credit to for how much work he's done, how much work he's put into it, and how really great of a player he's become. So tough to lose him on the offensive line. But luckily you have depth. Jason Peters came in at right tackle. He did a good job. Tyron Smith is coming back, obviously from that torn hamstring in training camp. And he is just such a great player. Tyron Smith, I think we forget because of the injuries with him, how good he is when he's out there. And injuries are a concern, but if he's fully healthy and he can be, just a fraction of the Tyron Smith we were used to, this is a huge, huge addition to this team. And it's going to be interesting to see how they play him. I assume that, he would slot back in at left tackle, Tyler Smith's move in the left guard, and obviously you'd have Terence Steele at right tackle. That's been the assumption for these last few weeks in preparation for Tyron coming back. But now you lose Terence Steele. And I assumed it'd be the same plan, just insert Jason Peters at right tackle. But now there's rumors that Tyron Smith could play right tackle. And even though I think he could do it, I just don't love that. This is an all-pro, perennial Hall of Fame, future Hall of Fame player. I just don't want to move him from left tackle. He hasn't played right tackle since he was very young in 2012. That's actually where he started his career. So, I think he could do it. Coaches have said he's looked ambidextrous in practice. And, I have confidence in him, and I feel like he could get it done. But I don't know. It just feels weird to move a player like that after all these years. So, we'll see, though. Whether he plays a left tackle, a right tackle, I trust him, and I think you're going to have a good group of offensive linemen, whether it's, going to be the Tyron Smith, Tyler Smith, Beatus Martin, Jason Peters combo, or if you move Tyron Smith and you keep McGovern and Tyler Smith, you have a lot of good offensive linemen. You have really 6, 7 good offensive linemen on this team. And just unfortunately losing Terence Steele, but excuse me, getting Tyron Smith back, it's huge, and it's going to be a big boost for this team. So I'm just really, really excited to see him back. So again, it's been a wild couple of weeks. A lot going on. I'm excited to be back. Hopefully, my voice will continue to get better. It's still a little rough, I know. Thanks for hanging with me though. And it's a good year. It's been a great year for the Cowboys, and there's still a lot to go. We have 4 weeks left in the regular season, and man, it's gonna be an exciting playoff push. You have the Bucs, just sort of. I think that's probably who you're gonna play right now. The winner of the NFC South, since you'll probably end up with that wild card spot. The Bucs have looked rough. But then again, it's Tom Brady in the playoffs, and it's just sort of like, it's interesting. And then obviously you have the 49ers with Brock Purdy doing as great as they've ever done. So it's interesting. So let me know who you want to play in the playoffs. Right now, as much as I would love to get that first seed and play either the Giants or the Commanders, it's going to be tough. Even if this team can go in and beat the Eagles, I have a hard time seeing them losing to anyone else. Just their schedule is so easy, and it's going to be interesting. So, let me know who you want to play. Let me know who you think we're going to play. If I'm had to bet, it's probably going to be the Bucs, but we'll see. We'll see. And no matter who we play, I just want this team to be ready. I want this team to use these last 4 weeks to just get ready, get all these dumb mistakes out of the way. Dak talked about it. We just, no more of this. No more of these slow first halves and then getting together in the end. No, we need to play dominant football all game. And we've seen it happen. We saw it happen with the Vikings. And I just think you need your top guys to step up. Micah Parsons has been quiet in the last 2 weeks. He's really made no impact in the last 2 weeks. He's got to be hungry. The Lions always hungry, right? He's just got to step up. He's got to reapply that pressure. Because the defense, as good as they've been, in the last few weeks, the pass rush has not been quite what it was at the beginning of this season. If the pass rush can reemerge, reassert its dominance, that makes everything better. It helps the secondary. It takes some pressure off of them. It helps the linebackers. It helps everyone when your pass rush is at full force. And Micah Parsons, he's been slipping a little, in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation. We've seen guys like Matthew Judon, Nick Bosa stepping up. Micah Parsons, he's got to take all of it. He's got to take all the craziness, all the outside distractions, everything, and put it into his game. Put it in and be dominant. We've seen it happen this season. We've seen it happen throughout his whole career. It's been a rough past 2 weeks. The Lion, he needs to reemerge. He needs to be hungry. He needs to go after Trevor Lawrence and just really get back on track. I'm not trying to take anything away from him. He's had a great year, but if he can just reemerge sort of down this stretch and just get this pass rush going again, this is going to be a dangerous team. And we've seen it. I keep pointing to the Colts game, the fourth quarter of the Colts game, and the Vikings game. In those 2 games, you had every aspect of the team running at full force, offense, defense, special teams. And I've said it, and I'll say it over and over again. If you can get all three aspects of this team running at full force, this is a Super Bowl winning team. I mean, there's nothing this team can't do if it's running at full capacity. But that's just the question. That's the biggest question. Consistency. Can it happen? Can you come in and game out, and against good teams, and have it all work, have it all click? We saw it against the Vikings, so I know it's in there. And now it's just got to happen. You have a Jaguars team coming up next week who's been, not very good this year, but then they beat the Titans last week. They've had some good wins, and they've had some bad losses. A lot like the Colts, I would say. So a team not as bad as the Texans team you just faced. So, but someone that should be a pretty easy win. Should be. But, it's just, you can't take this team for granted. You can't take any team for granted. You just got to go in there, play your game from the beginning. And it's just, you got to be able to respond to, I think the one thing that changed this Texans game, the one play was the Cavante Turpin muff. I honestly believe that this game would have been maybe not a blowout, but a dominant performance by this team if that play hadn't happened. This team was rolling, and the Texans had no answers in the first quarter. I know it was only 7-0, but you could just feel the momentum just completely on the Cowboys side. And then that Cavante Turpin muff happens, and then it just shifts all the way to the Texans. And from then until the fourth quarter, the Cowboys could not reestablish themselves. It's like they were just running backwards. They just couldn't establish their footing. And that's just, you're going to make mistakes. It's part of it, and you just have to be able to turn around. You have to have a short memory and just be able to reestablish yourself. And I think that's going to be the biggest difference. Because truly, if that play hadn't happened, I think it would have been an entirely different game against the Texans. So you got to play well early. You got to limit these dumb mistakes, and then you'll have success. I believe in this team. It's been a crazy year, but I believe this team has what it takes to make a deep run finally. But for now, you just got to take it one game at a time. You got to be consistent, and if you can get that done, if you can get consistency and click on all 3 cylinders, you're going to have a lot of success. So, I can't wait to see what this team can do down the stretch. I'm excited to see what T.Y. Hilton and some of the new guys can bring. Tyron Smith coming back. There's a lot to be excited for. So let me know, what are you most excited for this Cowboys team? And what are you most concerned about this Cowboys team? Because there are some legitimate concerns for sure. So let me know in the comments section. Thanks again for watching, for bearing with me with my voice hopefully that'll continue to improve. But thank you so much for being here. And I'm so excited to be back. get the videos going every week again. And so thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys next time, and go Cowboys.